Global trade has boomed since World War II, and the ocean sees more commercial ships today in 2017 than ever before in human history. Living in landlocked Colorado, life at sea is rarely a consideration for us mountain folk. Goods imported from abroad somehow seem to magically land on our store's shelves, and we most likely don't appreciate the vast network and supply chain that makes it all possible. After leaving factories in foreign countries, goods are then transported by trucks and trains to the nearest commercial shipping port. Here, goods are then tightly packed into large containers up to 40 feet long. Products ranging from the latest iPhone to the fall line of designer clothing gets neatly packed up into these large boxes. Once a container is full, a dolly hoists it onto a stack aboard a nearby waiting container ship. As a consumer, you might be most familiar with a traditional container ship looking something like this. The numbers behind these leviathans are astounding. Weighing over 150,000 tons, or as much as 12,000 school buses, container ships are the semi-trucks of the ocean. These massive ships are capable of carrying 19,000 truckloads in a single haul. Much like their road-going brethren, the 18-wheeler, the container ship is powered by a diesel engine. But again, this engine exists on a scale unknown in the world of trucks and automobiles. Engines so massive that mechanics are able to walk around inside the engine during repairs. You might expect that an engine this large, pushing a ship this massive, might use an incredible amount of fuel, and you'd be correct. The average container ship uses 250 gallons of fuel to travel 1 mile. One distinct difference between road vehicles and large ocean commercial ships is the type of fuel they use. Your traditional diesel-powered semi-truck burns a type of diesel known as ULSD, or ultra-low sulfur diesel. Since this fuel has a much lower sulfur content, the burn is clean and the emissions are relatively low. Unfortunately, the cost for this clean diesel is quite high due to the refining process used to create it. However, unlike road vehicles, which are subject to strict emission regulation, ocean-dwelling craft are able to use a type of diesel fuel known as bunker oil. Bunker oil differs greatly from the typical ultra-low sulfur diesel that is burned by the average large truck. It is far more viscous and contains a much higher sulfur content than ULSD diesel. After the refining process, bunker oil is quite literally the bottom of the barrel and is simply what's left behind after the other fuel types are finished being refined. In the oil and gas industry, this bunker oil is considered a waste product, as it is far too thick for most engines to burn. As it is considered waste, bunker oil is incredibly affordable, about $1.18 per gallon, and readily available at the vast majority of worldwide ports and harbors where it is sold by the metric ton. A metric ton of fuel provides 278 gallons of bunker oil for a ship. At fill-ups, ships will purchase up to 4 million gallons at once, or just under $5 million worth. The majority of a commercial ship's life is spent in international waters, where emission controls are lax and the distance is vast. Freight companies will usually opt for bunker fuel instead of cleaner petroleum-based fuels to remain competitive. From a fuel consumption standpoint, the shipping industry consumed about 286 million metric tons annually during a 5-year period from 2007 to 2012. In terms of gallons, just over 79 billion gallons were consumed annually globally in commercial maritime activities. These same 79 billion gallons could propel a Honda Civic around the globe 95 million times. With these impressive fuel consumption figures come some equally astonishing emissions. The average container ship emits as much pollution in a year as 50 million cars do annually. The world's 760 million cars are overshadowed by the fumes of just 15 of the ocean's 85,000 commercial cargo ships. To compound this, these ships operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for an average of 280 days a year. The CO2 emissions of the global commercial fleet pale in comparison to their sulfur dioxide and nitrous dioxide emissions, at 13% and 15% respectively. This is a direct result of the significantly higher sulfur content of bunker oil, at nearly 2,000 times that of regular ultra-low sulfur diesel. While 95% of the world's ships are propelled by diesel engines, there are new methods of propulsion gaining popularity. Among the more notable methods are that of nuclear propulsion. The Nimitz-class aircraft carriers, operated by the U.S. Navy, are a fleet of 10 carriers that rely exclusively on the process of nuclear fission for their propulsion through international waters. By capturing the heat of a constant nuclear reaction and then using that heat to create steam, nuclear reactors can create an immense amount of power with zero immediate emissions. For example, by utilizing a pair of military-grade nuclear reactors, these massive battleships will only need refueling once every 20 years and have an expected service life of approximately 50 years. Together, these twin reactors are able to supply each of the ship's 4 shafts with 140,000 horsepower, in addition to generating 100 megawatts of electricity, enough for 70,000 homes. In fact, during times of crisis, these massive ships could theoretically tap into a coastal city's electrical grid and supply an entire population with ample power. On the commercial front, a total of 4 commercial test ships have been deployed intermittently since the 1960s, beginning with the Savannah out of the United States. Proposed and ordered by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in 1955, the Savannah completed construction in 1961 and launched for her maiden voyage shortly after. Though costing nearly $50 million, the Savannah was still widely regarded as a success and has continued to serve as a beacon of hope for those looking to alternative methods of ocean propulsion. The Savannah went 5 full years before needing to be refueled. Rather impressive considering this ship was designed nearly 60 years ago. Despite the impressive safety record of nuclear-fired ships, there still exists many fears and concerns of nuclear power's volatility and reliability. Some nuclear-powered ships churn out large quantities of warm, slightly radioactive water during operation. The effects of this practice are still being studied, though newer ships tend to rely on a closed-loop cooling system, which partially negates this concern. Questions on how to handle nuclear waste, the effects of an accident on marine life, costs of construction and operation of these ships, and many other matters have slowed down their widespread introduction. The future of commercial maritime shipping is unknown. Many countries already have policies in place to curb excess pollution near the shore and in harbors. However, a change too drastic, implemented too quickly, could cripple global trade and have a dangerous ripple effect. Failure to make any change at all could result in a massive increase of emissions as trade ramps up to accommodate globalization and an increasing population.